Okay, I fucked up. In the last video, I said that I was talking about the biggest reason why I see startups fail. To be honest though, over the last 6 months, I've been reminded of another very big contender for that title. So I thought I should make another video number 2, to try and address it and confront it and see if I can add any value on how to avoid it for your own business. My name is Max Sinclair and I am the founder of Eco Companion. Eco Companion empowers the average person to be able to protect the natural world simply by booking your next holiday. I think I'm well set up to talk about this particular issue because I'm literally trying to avoid its deadly vice as we speak today in my own business. I'm going to give you an angle on why I think that this is such a prominent issue in the first place. And then I'm also going to move on to 2 particular techniques which I think will hopefully help you in your own business to try and avoid this same challenge that I've faced. The first one is insanely boring and probably the most boring part of any business, in my opinion anyway, coming from a sales and marketing background. And then the other one is a kind of new technique, or at least I think so. I really should patent it in some way. I need to give it a name. I'll call it the 5% rule. The 5% rule, and you'll understand why very soon. So what is this monster lurking behind a bush, this startup killer that I'm here to try and warn you about? It is, as you might have guessed, cash. Cash is king, profitability, burn rate, all of these annoying terms. Running out of cash is highlighted by many as one of the biggest killers of startups. There is obviously an anti to this, which I talked about, to be honest, in my last video about the fact that actually what kills a business is that it doesn't focus properly on its micro niche initially, so it doesn't focus on a small user group and then build out from that. And there's obviously 100 other topics which you could point out as being some of the biggest killers of startups. However, there is countless examples of high quality businesses that have been delivering amazing goods to their customers, but ultimately they didn't manage their cash flow effectively, and this has been what's ultimately been their downfall. Even global banks have been brought to their knees by its power. And why do I think cash is such a problem and a weakness to so many startups early on in their journey? I believe it's for 2 main reasons. The first is the market itself. So as soon as you get investment in particular, there is thousands of services with well-trained salespeople like me who are getting in touch with you, trying to pull out every single last penny of yours, promising you positive ROIs, which are of course as tempting as they're ever going to be when you're a tiny little startup trying to make your first waves into the world. The second is just kind of pure ambition and faith in yourself as a founder. Founders have to be the most steely, optimistic people in the world. They have even family, friends, competitors, everyone, investors, telling you that you might not have what it takes and maybe this business isn't going to work out. And horrible stats like 98% of us are going to be dead within the first year that you have to try and bat away. So we have to build up this exaggerated optimism to protect ourselves from all of this. This then leads to us overly investing in our startup because we believe it's going to grow at a rate faster than maybe it actually does. The overinvestment then leads to the startup ultimately running out of cash before this optimism can be actualized. I think the key concept that's really missed quite often here is that when you're making these kind of comparisons all the time, trying to decide if a product or service is good for your business, you're trying to decide, does it add more value than the cost I'm outlaying? And of course, if it does, then that's great, and that should extend your runway, which of course is brilliant because it gives you more time. However, I think the factor which is always underrated within this balancing act that you're trying to figure out is the founder. So founders are these insanely hardworking, driven people that work like every day of the week. There is no weekends, and they're so deeply passionate about the subject because it is your baby. Like, I describe it as my baby because that's how I feel about it. Some people have gone one route in life, I've gone this way. And all of this obviously comes to the fact that you do all of this in return for fuck all cash. You're basically slave labor. You do it, especially at the beginning, for nothing. Like, I was delivering pizzas on the weekends is the cliche, which is sadly true in my case. So your personal impact far outweighs any kind of app, service or consultant that you can even think of. So really the game is much more about every additional month that your business can survive means another month's time of your most powerful tool in action, which is you, of course. Okay, so hopefully I've been super convincing up until this point that this is a terrible, terrible issue and it's gonna ruin your business if you're not careful. So what do we actually do about it at this point? I've come up with 2 action points to try and help turn the tide and go against the never-ending supply of evil salespeople trying to take your precious cash. Number 1, the most boring piece of advice I am ever going to give you. Budgeting. Start budgeting. Come up with some basic forecasts. Look at how you've been spending your money for the last 6 months and look at what you think will happen over the next year. You don't need to do any further than that. And then try and actually stick to those budgets. This is the toughest part of all of it. I didn't do this for a very long time. There will always be that guru marketer who promises you the world for the next £100 of your budget. Sometimes you just have to say no. And don't worry though, just feel free to send them to me. I have automated emails that will tell them to fuck off. It's very straightforward. Okay, number 2. This is a slightly controversial one, and I'm going to try and coin my own phrase for the second time after the hopeful success of micro niche. This is the 5% rule. The 5% rule is at the end of each month, you look at the costs you had for the previous month and you try and cut 5% of those. This is just as a process meant to force you to cut those unnecessary costs which you otherwise maybe would let slip. After you've done that, then of course feel free to increase your spending on marketing channels that are working or consultants that are doing a great job. The point of this isn't that you overall cut total costs, it's more that you cut the inappropriate costs which otherwise you might let slip as time goes on, and because it hurts to tell that particular consultant that you're not looking to use their services anymore. I think the real beauty of this technique is that it just forces you to pause and think, how can I spend less before spending more? There is no product or service really ever, other than an investor actually, who would ever ask you that question. So that's it from me. I'll be honest, I really have found this one of the biggest challenges I've ever had since starting the business 2.5 years ago. I naturally am very aggressive in terms of running businesses, in terms of always wanting to invest more in myself and in the business. But obviously this is, like I've said, has lots of dangers around it. So I really do honestly hope that this video has and will help you to understand the problem and try and avoid it for yourself when involved in your own businesses. And so please do also feel free to message me after this and ask any more questions, or I can send you my forecast to kind of show you how I've approached things, or even just send a comment below. And lastly, let me know what you thought of this video and how I could do it better. I really enjoy making these. They kind of help crystallize ideas in my own head so that I can understand them better. So of course I want to do more of them and I want to do them better. So help me know how to do that. Lots of love, Max.